Hey, everybody. On this episode of Ask an Expert, we'll be talking to a security guard company owner that I know you will absolutely love hearing from. So I think he's bringing a lot of innovative ideas in the way that he incentivizes his employees, as well as the way he deals with his customers. Sit back and enjoy. Let's go. Hey, Glenn. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Glenn Bimani. I opened BPS Security back in 2015. And when we first opened, we started to help service small businesses. We found out fairly quickly that small businesses is not a viable business plan. So we switched to large corporations to start providing a better service than the national companies are at the current time. And that's what we're working on right now, is working towards providing more services to more national corporate clients.
Okay. So how's that working out for you compared to working with the small businesses? What was so difficult about working with small companies?
Anytime they were in financial trouble, we were the first ones to leave. With the corporate companies, that's not the case. They usually value our services more, because if they're buying services at a national level, it's because they know they need it. And they want to keep you even when they have financial troubles. They'll look at cutting costs somewhere else.
So what other challenges did you face? So other than finding out that small companies are willing to cut their security guard services like that, what other challenges were there for you?
Getting the marketing message and our values across to the client correctly. We found out if you don't provide that message correctly to your clients, they're less likely to hire you, because you don't even know what your message is. If you don't know your message, then your client doesn't know your message as what in regards to what you're providing to them. And that was very difficult for us in the beginning. Now it's a lot easier, and we're actually in the process of revamping all that again with the marketing agency we hired. So it's going to make it easier for clients to understand what we really do and what we're about.
So tell us, what do you do and what are you about? Because I find the way that you guys go about doing business is a lot different than a lot of the companies that I talk to.
So we're more hands-on with our corporate clients than the national companies are. And when I mean national, I mean the big security companies that make over $1 billion a year. So one of the things that our clients like is that they don't get passed around between branch to the next branch to the next branch until they get the correct branch to provide services in that city. Or a client calls one person in my company and we make it happen wherever they need security, whether it's in Colorado, in New Mexico, in Arizona. They call one number or one email and we make it happen. So instead of them spending 6-7 hours trying to get security at a location, they only spend 2 minutes and we have the rest taken care of for them. We have a master agreement with them. They already know the price ahead of time. They just say, I need security here. We make it happen. We have a different procedures. We try to keep part-time security staff on staff all the time. So if somebody needs security within 6-7 hours, we have a security officer on their way to provide the service. So we can pretty much staff a location with temporary staff within 24 hours. Then we implement the permanent staff. Now, the other big difference is we let our client choose the security guards for their property. So when we're doing an interview, we'll narrow it down to the best officers for that property. Then we have the client interview those officers and they choose their guards for their location. And what that has done is when a security guard gets in trouble with us or they're reprimanded with us, the client has actually called us vouching that she doesn't want us to fire that guard because he's such an amazing guard and they have such an amazing relationship together that we have the client begging us not to fire our own staff.
So as a regional company, how do you ensure that those standards are upheld when you're talking about, dozens, hundreds of security guards? I mean, how does that work for you guys?
So we have a very strict hiring policy, not just with our own personal guards, but with subcontractors. So with the security guards, what we do, we have an employment contract at will, of course, especially in Texas. And part of that is you get $12 base rate and you get $17, $5 an hourly bonus. So if the security guard doesn't do their basic job function, like showing up on time to work, they get complaints from the clients, they're not doing incident reports, they're going to get $12 instead of 17. So if it's a bad guard and they know they're a bad guard, they're not going to sign the contract because they know they're never going to get that $17 an hour. So they're going to go work for someone else. So with having that strict hiring policy, We rarely get bad apples. We still get them. I mean, people are people, but for the most part, we had an amazing staff from the beginning because of that. And then we train them more hands-on. We give them their post orders. We go through them line by line to make sure they understand. And we will quiz them on them when we do unannounced inspections. So it keeps the quality going. And then from each group, even if it's a two-person or a three-person group or four-person, we have a lead officer that he gets paid more that replaces our field officers positions. So we don't have any field officer position. That lead officer is responsible for everything with that client's location. And it's helped us a lot because he's always there. He knows what's going on. And he's not going to want to lose his $19 an hour position when all he's doing is just making sure that the other guards are doing their work. He's not doing anything extra. So it works for everybody because now we have somebody on the inside that cares about their job. They're a good quality officer. The client likes them and he wants to keep his position. It's like when we get guards that ask us how long is the contract for, we tell them it's forever as long as you do your job and the client is happy, which is for the most part true.
Right.
Because they have the mindset, oh, I'll be out of a job in a month or I'll be out of a job in a year. And I tell them it's forever as long as you do your job.
So it sounds like you figured out really good ways to incentivize your employees. How else do you incentivize them? I mean, we were just talking about paternity leave. I mean, that's not something that, many companies that I know of do.
No, so we give paternity and maternity leave to all the officers as long as they've been with us for 6 months or more. We have made exceptions in the past for really good officers that started with us to approve that leave. So they get 2 weeks paid when they have their child so they can go spend time with the family, especially with the females. If they have a C-section or natural birth, it's not always easy for them to get back to doing stuff around the house. So if it's a male security officer, he's able to not worry about his bills. He can go help his family, go take care of the child, help his wife while she recovers a little bit. And it makes a big difference for them when they come back to work. Instead of stressing, figuring out how they're going to make up the difference, they know they're taken care of.
So these type of incentives and benefits are pretty expensive, I would imagine. So
they can add up.
Okay, so how do you pay for those? So it doesn't sound like you're going in lowballing your customers with low billing rates, I'm assuming.
No, we're not. We're in the middle when it comes to billing rate compared to the industry in general. So on the cheap end, most companies charge between $16 and $22 an hour, or correct?
Right.
Let me know if I'm wrong. And on the high end, the national companies charge between $50 and $65 an hour. Because we run a very lean operation, we removed everything that was not necessary, like vehicles, vehicle insurance. We have hired a non-auto insurance, which is cheaper for companies instead of getting commercial vehicle insurance, which is very expensive in the security industry. So we scratched all that out. We pay our security staff more. Instead of them paying them $15, $14, we're paying $17 or a living wage in that city, which we get those numbers online. So we pay them their living wage, which reduces our overhead, reduces our training costs, reduces our hiring expense because they stay with us longer. We then funnel that money to paying for other programs that we have for the employees. We charge, or starting rate for large companies starts at $35 an hour to $45 an hour. So we are right in the middle between national and local competition. So it allows us to pull from both the local competition and clients and from the national side that want to save money but get added value to their services. And you would think, I'm like, there's no way to pay 17, charge 35. But because we run our operations very lean, we actually have more profit margin than the national companies do.
And comparing yourself to the nationals, right? I know a lot of the national companies are really trying to invest in technology to help them be more efficient. I mean, have you tried to do the same thing? Are you using technology to gain efficiencies?
Yes, we're using GPS tracking, security software provided by you guys, Officer Reports, which we love, especially with the new features coming out. We also created our own HR, CRM, and license management software for security officers that reduces the time that it takes to hire an employee and notifies us when their licenses are expiring. But it's a centralized system, so it doesn't matter where my staff are, they can always access it, and everybody has an up-to-date information system. When I worked for national companies, they were all in spreadsheets. If you're in San Antonio, you had a San Antonio spreadsheet for those licenses expiring. If you're in Houston, you had a Houston. If you were somewhere else, so the amount of work to collect those spreadsheets and combine them is a lot. When you have a centralized system, all your information is located. Anybody can pull it up. The main manager, the CEO, he wants to look, okay, we're not in compliance because all these are expired. We need to get it moving. You know, if the guard in Alaska's license expired, you know, by just pulling up your record within seconds. So it allows us to move quicker and save time. And the guard can also go into his portal and update his own license information. So they're responsible for doing that. There's nothing for us to do on that end. They update the date that expires. They update a photo of it to make sure it's correct. And now we're in full compliance with the state of Texas or any other state that requires that. So it's easy for us to pull the information and tell the state, here's all our data. That's all correct. So we have 100% compliance because we gather all that information when they first get started and we keep it updated throughout the year. So that's helped us keep everything correct.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. So you've been in the business, a little while now. You said 6 or 7 years,
6 years.
Decade mark. So I know how hard it is to get started. I've been there. So looking back, what is, let's say, the best advice that you received during this time of running your business? The best advice that you received, and who gave it to you?
It was the business coach that I still hired. So when I hired the business coach was back in 2017. I hired this business coach, and he told me, don't be afraid to lose business. Charge what you're worth. Charge more. Doesn't matter what the low ball security companies are charging, and show your value and get the message correct. You do that, you're going to be able to charge more, regardless of what's going on in the industry. You basically create your own prices. And if you do follow through and you do provide the service you're saying you do, more business will come in the long run. So when we first started, we were charging 18. After I spoke with the business coach, we raised prices to $25 an hour. It's a long jump, but we only had one client at the time when we did that. When we went from 18 to 25, we had one permanent client at that time. We went to that client and we told them, look, we need to raise prices because we do things better. And our client says, well, that's a lot of money. And I'm like, well, you said you like us because we're different. Well, our price is different too. So when he budged, and there was like a 2-hour meeting because we were going back and forth. We we're like really negotiating. We were getting sweaty. We were getting tired and hungry. But at the end, he's like, okay, you guys are different. I'll give you the 25. When that happened, I knew we can't charge more because he gave me 25. When the most he ever paid was 20 at the time. He had 5 different companies in 5 years before that because he was already open 5 years. So in the 1-year mark, that was a 6-year in business. We were within 1 year. We are still doing business with him today.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. And that was off advice that a business coach gave to you. So I heard a couple of companies here and there talk about the value of business coaches. I mean, why did you sign up for a business coach? And what value did that business coach give you outside of saying, hey, get what you're worth?
At the time, we were desperate. We had no clients. We had one client. We had no other money coming in. I was burning through my cash that I had in reserves to keep the business open. So I said, I'll spend my last $300 with this guy. I have nothing else to lose. So we did that. And little by little, we started seeing more and more companies hire us. It wasn't easy. We still struggled. It wasn't until 2018 that we really started taking off with that business model, and it started working. And then we hired them more and more, and changed our message more and more every year. And then more and more corporate clients started hiring us even at higher rates because we kept raising the rates little by little to now where we're 35 to 45, depending on what they're buying and for how long and all that stuff. And it's made it very easy. And we got more confident over the years that that's just who we are now.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Excellent. That's absolutely incredible. So you talked about corporate clients, right? So you have some corporate clients now. Is there a white whale out there? Is there one corporate client that you would love to service? And if so, who would that be?
So we don't have a set client that we want to work for. If anything, COVID has taught us that we need to diversify who our clients are. The white whale client for us is someone who makes 50 million or more per year and is willing to pay us on a weekly basis rather than net 30 or net 60 terms.
Got it. Oh, I mean, which that's still a very sizable customer base, and you're absolutely right about COVID. We've learned a lot about that. So how has COVID affected you guys? How have you been able to make it through? Because I know a lot of our customers, are really having tough times with it.
So we actually been very fortunate that COVID has allowed us to grow by 383% this year because of COVID.
Wow, that's incredible. How is that?
Well, starting last year in 2019, we started to position ourselves as a company that provided an amazing service for a lot less than the national companies do. And we proved it to a couple of clients. And because of that, we were able to leverage COVID to get more business. So when COVID first hit in China, we called all our clients, look, security guard services are going to be stretched thin. Licensing departments are going to be closed, so we're not going to get any guards for quite a while until all this is settled. If it's anything like China, everything's going to close down. Guns are going to be limited. Ammo is going to be limited, which it was true. It did happen. Everything was limited. So in February, I started calling my clients. Do you want services? We need to start making preparations to make that happen for you. If not, prices are going to be about 3 times more than what you're paying now. As soon as March came and the state started saying, we're going to start doing shutdowns. And they started getting the same message in other states because one of my biggest clients is a national company. They called me in March and said, I need security in 5 states. I'm like, I'll make it happen.
Wow.
I'm a small company. Last year, we only did a little bit more than $250,000. We did 272,000 and some change.
Okay.
Not too small, but not where I want to be. But for me to tell the client, we'll make it happen no matter where you need us. We staffed 5 locations in 3 days.
Nationally or?
Nationally. So I went to one location, my supervisor went to another location, and then my manager went to a third location. And those are 3 in Texas. Then we had 2 out of the state at the time. And we were on the phone with subcontractors while we're doing security work at the same time because it was all rushed. Like the client called within 3 days, within 24 hours, we were in El Paso from San Antonio, sending guards from San Antonio to El Paso to cover that temporarily till we hired permanent staff. I did the same thing in Far, Texas. Another one went to Lubbock, did the same thing. And then we called subcontractors in other states. And that's when I emailed you a long time ago. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
We got everything situated and the client was happy. And before that, I asked the client, what about the national company doing business? Have you thought about giving them a call? He's like, out of sight, I don't mind. They take too long. You guys do things quickly and you do it right. And that's what really made us grow this year was because we were calling clients before the shutdowns, making preparations, and we were making sure that the clients was taken care of. And because of our strict and streamlined process, we moved quickly compared to the national. It would have been about a month before they even had security on their property. And the client wanted security right then and there.
That's right. And that's what I've always found. The smaller companies are quicker to react and generally provide better service than the nationals, right? And that's absolutely true. So I don't want to keep you. So let me ask you last 2 questions, right? So the first is, what message, and I'm not sure if we touched on this, what message is it that you try to convey to your customers or potential customers to get them to be customers? And the second thing is, what advice would you give to companies out there who are trying to triple their size in a year?
Okay. The message that we normally tell clients in a nutshell is that we're always here for you, regardless of what you need, 24/7. We rather do things right the first time than rush and then come back to fix a problem. And that we're looking at a long-term relationship, not something short-term just to make a quick buck. We actually want to work with them long-term. So when we first started with our corporate clients, they didn't have any security policies in place. They didn't have any active shooter policies or anything like that. And we worked hard with those clients to implement all that. The other companies, when I asked them, like, didn't the other company offer this? Like, no, they just hired somebody, put them out there, and now they're gone. And so we're creating these partnerships, and the clients see that we actually value partnerships, that they're willing to vouch for us to other new clients and go into meetings with us if we need to get the other clients to sign on with us. So it makes it very easy for us to have those partnerships with multiple people in the same company. Because if somebody leaves, then we still have 3 or 4 other people vouching for us within that same company. So we don't have to worry, oh, our main contact left. Are we still going to have the contract next year? We have 3 or 4 other people to back us to keep that contract going every year.
Excellent.
And that's what the clients, at the end of the day, they want. Whether they're a small client or a corporate client, they want that personal relationship with you.
All right. Anything? The advice that you would give. What advice?
So the advice I would give, know who your client is. It's very important. Not everybody is your client, and not everybody is a good client. Also, know what qualifications you want your clients to have for them to be able to do business with you. Just because they can cut you a check tomorrow doesn't mean you should do business with them. Make sure that you are a good fit for each other. Do your policies align with their policies? Do their culture align with yours? If there's a mixed match of cultures, then that client's always going to be blaming you for issues. We've actually had clients take our side over their own employees because they knew that their employee wasn't in the wrong, because we have similar cultures when it comes to employees and work ethic. So that makes a big difference in your working relationship with them. Instead of you fighting and saying, oh, well, so-and-so did this, my guy wasn't the right. It's much more easier when you both know you have the same culture and you look at it objectively rather than based on emotions. The other big advice, know what your non-negotiable terms are for your company.
What do you mean by that?
So for us, if a client is not willing to accept or billing terms, we do not do business with them. So what we do is they get weekly invoices and they have 7 days to pay from that invoice date. So we get our money quickly. We have very good cash flow because of that. So it allowed us to grow during the pandemic very quickly and very big, because we didn't have a shortfall of cash flow being tied up in payroll, like if you were doing at 30 and at 60 terms. So we can absorb as much contracts as we want because we don't have that. The other one is, if it's a temporary client, we charge them 100% upfront because we don't know what their financial stability is. And I'm not going to go to court to try to get my money. If they can't afford to pay upfront, more than likely they can't afford to pay you at the end of the service. And then,
is that for all customers? Because you kind of broke up a little bit. Is that for all customers, or is that for temporary customers? I didn't hear you.
Temporary customers are required to pay upfront 100%, regardless how big they are or how small they are. If it's a permanent client, they get the option of doing weekly invoices with net 7 terms. If they want net 30 terms, which is the most we'll offer, they have to pay an increase of 20% of the contract cost. If the contract is 100,000, they got to pay me 120,000 divided by the hours. That's their new billing rate. So that's what we do. Now, we've always had clients tell us, well, I'm not paying 20%. I'm just going to pay you weekly. If they really want your service, they're going to pay for that weekly regardless. If they can't afford it, or they're running into financial issues, so they just want to pay you later because they want to hold on to their money, we don't know what their financial stability is. Especially with COVID, with big businesses closing, we're not going to take the risk to see, well, maybe they'll pay us, maybe they're not, but I'm not going to wait for that to happen because my business at the end of the day is at risk. If we lose out on $100,000 or $50,000, and if we're doing weekly terms with net 7, if they don't pay, we're only out 2 weeks. Now, here's the kicker. I have an additional clause on top of that billing rate. If the client does not pay on time, we are allowed to suspend services immediately without notice until they pay us. And
have you ever had to do that?
No, we have not. And here's why. Every client who sees that will usually ask us to modify it a little bit, and will ask us, can you put 24 hours or 48-hour notice in case there's a mistake on our end, an honest mistake. I'm like, yeah, sure, that's not a big deal for us. We'll do that. Then on the other end, I've had clients, I'm not signing that clause. I'm like, well, you just told me you were going to pay me on time, and that's not an issue. Then if you pay me on time is not an issue, then that clause shouldn't be an issue. So we never had to go to collections. We never had to go to court to get money, because everybody who signs that clause, we know they're good for their money. And we've had clients actually pay late. An honest mistake. They just ran behind. for whatever reason. And we'll call them, hey, we noticed your payment was behind. Is there a reason why? They're like, no, we just ran behind. Can you send me the invoices for next week in advance, and we'll pay them out with this one? And they would pay us quicker for the second one because they fell behind on this one to make up for it. So that's the kind of relationship. When you screen your clients carefully, you're going to have an amazing relationship with them, because now you're not worried about money. You have good stuff in place, and it's more of a partnership rather than just a business transaction with them.
Excellent, excellent. Man, so we've been going at this for a little while, and I just wanted to say thanks again for putting some time in your busy schedule to talk to us a little bit and help out a lot of companies out there that will be watching this. If there are some customers out there who would be interested in working with you, where can they find you?
They can, it's hard to get a hold of me because I don't have my information publicly, but if they call or 1-800 number on our website for BPS security, then my manager, when he calls, just let him know that you're trying to call me. You heard about this through Officer Reports, and I'll be more than happy to give him a call as soon as I get a chance, and we'll go from there. Please don't tell my manager that you'll call back later or that you'll call to get a hold of me later, because he's just going to block you. We get a lot of salespeople that say I'll call back later because they don't want to say that they're trying to sell me, and my manager just blocks them from then calling again. So make sure you don't say that. Say you heard from Officer Reports and then you want to speak with me about more advice, and he'll be more than happy to pass you guys on.
Excellent. And what's the website again?
It's www.bps, as Bravo Papa Sierra, security, SA, like San Antonio.com.
Excellent. Glenn, again, thank you for coming out and spending some time with us. Well, not really coming out, but jumping on and spending some time with me. Good luck to you, and I look forward to talking to you again sometime.
Likewise.